Hey guys, Lukey here, coach of the Olivine City Beacons. This is the week 4 recap of DPDL super low tier. My opponent this week is Kyle and the Tantruming Tyrunts. Just a quick overview here of both of our teams. You can see from the season stats, he's had a bit of a rough go. Absol's the only thing that's picked up a KO. For us, I mean, we haven't actually won a game either. And while the standings say I'm 1-2, really this is a battle of winless teams. And because of the forfeit win I got against the Wonder Pets, this is absolutely a must-win situation, given that looking at the standings, these games haven't updated yet, but Kashmir, assuming that he doesn't get any flack for the dropped replay, he's 3-1. And Kanava with the Harlem Hariyamas is 3-1 as well. So those guys are both above. And Wonder Pets also won. I think there is a game missing somewhere in this equation. So I'm already really in tough because two of the guys ahead of me I've lost to. And looking at it, I have to win this week against Kyle. I absolutely must. I mean, I don't. It's not a must that I beat Kanava next week, but most likely I have to. And then it's against Ryan, and I can never remember who the Stack Attackers coach is. But basically at this point we've got 4 weeks left and winning is mandatory. So looking at this team, interesting group. On paper it's actually a really rough matchup for me. His high tiers are all super offensive, and it's a really interesting wall-breaking core. And he's got Tangela, Torkoal, Stunfisk, Galar, Shuckle, and Munchlax as a nice defensive backbone. And then some really interesting utility options with Oricorio. And Mr. Mime Galler, who is a terrible, horrible matchup for me. Mr. Rhyme and Delphox have already run through my team this season. And so in prepping, I was just trying to build a solid all-around team to try and handle everything. And I was thinking that, in terms of good matchups, he doesn't have other than if Munchlax comes, he doesn't have a good ghost resist other than Absol, but Cursula can break through, or my teammates can patch it up with either Chestnut or Mawile. So let's get to the replay. So I see this in team preview, and immediately first thought is Ampharos. This is your time to shine. He doesn't have a ground type. Ampharos is here. I've run sort of a mixed bulk set because it matches up really well against whatever he wants to do. It punishes contact with static, and also has heal bell if I need him to hang around. But basically, Volt Switch is free. So I go immediately into Ampharos as he goes into Samurott. Oh, there is some music off. Thank you. Turn 1. He immediately switches. I'm afraid of Samurott because I know what a beast it is in Never Used, at least in past gens, and I'm afraid of a Swords Dance set. But I figure I can take whatever he wants to throw at me and immediately go for Volt Switch just to get some chip. And so he gives me Torkoal. I think Thunderbolt is a clean 2-hit KO, and this Ampharos is not invested. But Volt Switch does a boatload of damage, and that slow pivot allows me to go into Cramorant, which great start to the match. So immediately looking at his team, he does not have a switch in to Surf that loves taking it, so it's immediately let's get Gulp Missile going, get some more chip with Surf. So I get a little bit lucky with the crit here. Because all of a sudden Oricorio is now in a rough spot, but I know that having used Oricorio last season, that Ampharos is going to be able to take whatever he wants to throw at me. And yeah, obviously he soaks that up. It does absolutely nothing. Ampharos is a complete counter to this. He goes to the Hurricane. I think he expected maybe to switch out, but Thunderbolt just gets Oricorio into the critical health range. I decide to Volt Switch out because I know at this point that Rapidash with Oricorio chip down can knock it out with Flare Blitz. So clean first KO with Rapidash. All of a sudden, there's one less thing that Ampharos has to worry about. So here he brings in Samurott. Again, I'm worried. I go into Chestnut. This is probably the sloppiest play of the match for me. Chestnut gets Toxic, not a big deal. And then here, again, in future weeks, I'm going to have to make sure that information is better used here because, look, even though I'm looking at it and Chestnut's not that useful because I still figure that Mawile can handle Absol. Throwing him away here was not a good play. And I see Scald, so all of a sudden he was obviously expecting me to switch out to something. I'm not really sure. He could have gone for the KO here. Noticing it's special, I stay in, air slash, clean KO. Yeah, not a great match for Chestnut. But it gives me a free switch in Ampharos, who all of a sudden now it's like, who wants to take a Thunderbolt? So Thunderbolt, and now I'm in range for Volt Switch, and I know I outspeed, so this allows me to get whatever I want in. Nothing really wants to handle Rapidash, but I also wanted to bait in Samurott because I know, now that I know that this thing is not boosting, you know, Toxic doesn't scare me, Skull doesn't scare me, Air Slash doesn't scare me. Its fourth move it reveals is Ice Beam down the road, but here I know that Ampharos can just start firing off shots, and Thunderbolt just, you know, Haunter, not going to love that. You know, I take a little bit of chip, but then I can just Volt Switch out. And again, I'm Rapidash comes in, Samurott is going to get baited. Ampharos comes in, takes, you know, negligent chip damage from Air Slash. And at this point, you know, Volt Switch, I can just keep the pressure high. And Mr. Mime Galar, this is the Pokemon I was most worried about. This thing is an absolute unit in low tier. But I EV, especially after my lessons with Delphox and Galarian, or Mr. Rhyme, I've EV'd Cursula to be physically defensive, so it can handle Psyshock, but also take the strong special moves and be a good mixed wall here. But also, because Cursula has such a high special attack, this thing is going to absolutely nuke anything that it wants, even uninvested. So he goes to the Nasty Plot, super greedy. Cursula Shadow Ball annihilates it. I know he's going for the Swords Dance here, and this is where it gets a little bit dicey, honestly, because you know, without Chestnut as a backup, who is another hard wall to Absol, Swords Dance Absol is actually a threat to the rest of my team here, notwithstanding that Rapidash outspeeds. So he goes to the knockoff, gets rid of my leftovers, and I miss the play rough, which this is actually the one moment in the match where I was sweating it a little bit because, you know, again, that came down to a roll. He is, you know, 2 extra % away from potentially running away with this and an Absol sweep. So sloppy play by me, and I get bailed out by Mawile coming through. Play rough connects on the second try, and in comes Samurott again. Look, I'm -8 heading into this match. I need all the differential I can get. So Ampharos comes in, takes the Ice Beam, and he's going to outspeed, but Thunderbolt is going to get Samurott down, and one final Thunderbolt's going to end the match. So, Kyle, good game. You told me after the match that your son picked the moves. I mean, he didn't build a bad team, that's for sure. You know, you know, you're a hard-working dad, so you know, good game. You know, I'm sorry it was a 5-0. It feels like a blowout, but definitely had fun. Really interesting team to prep for, and wish you all the best in the final weeks. So finally, and again, doesn't matter the circumstances, happy to finally get a win under my belt. We're 2-2. We're -3 in differential. Ampharos gets the mascot moment, the MVP of this match for sure. And next week I'm against Kanava, the Harlem Harriyamas. He's got an absolute unit of a team. Things like Muck, Typhlosion, Aggron. Just stuff that is going to hit really hard and going to require a lot of prep because Typhlosion is a problem. So we'll see you guys next week. Remember to like and subscribe if you like following along with these weekly recaps and watching me try and slowly scratch and claw my way into playoffs if possible. So anyway, thanks guys for watching, and take it easy.